Why it sucks to be born as a brown bear. You wake up. Well, not really, you're born. But that's just another way of saying you're suddenly here, crammed into a dark, warm den with your siblings squirming around like oversized hamsters. Your mother hasn't eaten in months, yet she's here, feeding you, keeping you alive with whatever strength she has left. You are blind, helpless, and oblivious to the fact that the forest outside would chew you up and spit you out without hesitation. For weeks, life is simple, you squeak, you sleep. But winter doesn't last forever, and neither does the safety of the den. One day, your mother decides it's time. She claws open the entrance, and light floods in. You're dragged into the blinding brightness of spring. The world is big, loud, and full of smells you don't understand. Trees loom overhead, snow melts underfoot, and your siblings tumble around like drunks on unsteady legs. Tea doesn't take long to realize you're small, weak, and very, very edible. Your mother's job isn't to make you feel safe, it's to make you strong. From day one, she teaches you how to survive, and her lessons are anything but gentle. She smells danger before you do, hears threats you can't even imagine. One afternoon, while you chew on a twig, she freezes. Her head snaps up, nostrils flaring. Then you hear it, a low, guttural growl. They explode from the brush, eyes locked on you and your siblings, their mouths foaming with hunger. You're too scared to move, but your mother isn't. She rises like a landslide, roaring so loud the trees shudder. The wolves hesitate, but not for long. They're starving. She doesn't give them a choice. Her claws flash, blood sprays, and one of them crumples. The others hesitate just long enough for her to charge again. They flee. She turns to you, panting, fur matted with blood, and nudges you back towards safety. It's not a tender moment, it's a warning. Pay attention, or next time, you'll be the one bleeding out in the dirt. By summer, you start figuring things out. You watch as your mother digs up roots, rips apart logs for insects, and plunges into rivers to snatch salmon with terrifying precision. You try to imitate her, but your first attempt at fishing ends with you face first in the water, flailing while the fish dart away. Your mother watches from the riverbank, probably wondering how she gave birth to something so pathetic. The forest doesn't wait for you to catch up. It's cruel, fast, and indifferent. If you want to survive, you'd better keep up. Your first kill happens on a hot summer day. You're nosing around a berry bush when something small and furry bolts. A rabbit. Instinct takes over. You pounce, claws swiping, and pin it to the ground. It squeals. You weren't expecting it to fight back. But then you remember your mother's roar, her unrelenting force. You bite down.
It stops moving. Your first kill is messy, brutal, nothing like the clean, effortless hunts you've watched your mother execute. But it's yours, and the taste of blood sticks with you. You start paying attention, watching how she moves, how she stalks and strikes with precision. You learn fast because you have to. The forest is a hunting ground, but it's also a battlefield. Every meal is a risk. The line between predator and prey is razor thin. By your second year, you're bigger, perhaps stronger, starting to believe you own the forest. You don't, but you think you do. You've seen the dangers, wolves, humans, even bigger bears. You think you can handle them, and then you meet him. It's late spring. The salmon are running. You and your mother are fishing when he appears, a massive bear, larger than anything you've ever seen. You freeze, but your mother doesn't. She roars, a challenge that makes the air tremble. The stranger doesn't flinch, he charges. The fight is chaos, claws tearing, bodies slamming together like falling trees. For a moment, you think your mother might lose. Then she lands a devastating swipe across his face. He stumbles. She doesn't hesitate. With another roar, she lunges. He retreats, limping into the trees. And that's when you realize the forest doesn't belong to the biggest bear. It belongs to the one who refuses to die. Then, one day, your mother doesn't come back. No speech, no farewell, not even a grunt of warning. She's just gone, and so is the safety net you didn't realize you had. Suddenly, the forest feels bigger, darker, more interested in eating you than ever before. The first few weeks are a disaster. You misjudge threats, stumble into danger, and almost become a meal for a pack of wolves who are far too excited to see you. You barely escape with your fur intact. That's when you understand why most cubs don't make it. Statistically speaking, you're far more likely to become a pile of bear-flavored leftovers than a full-grown predator. Your first big win comes when you stumble across a fresh deer carcass. Steam still rises from it. Your stomach growls so loudly it might as well announce your arrival. You dive in, tearing at the meat like you haven't eaten in weeks. You haven't. Then you hear it. A twig snaps behind you. You freeze. Another bear. He's bigger than you, but smaller than your mother's last challenger. His expression tells you everything. He's not here to share. He charges. You don't fight. You run. You crash through the underbrush, moving faster than him. When you finally stop, you realize two things. One, you're still hungry. Two, the forest doesn't care. If you want to eat, you'd better be ready to bleed for it. By your 4th year, the tables have turned. You're no longer the scrawny cub running from every shadow. At 700 pounds, with claws sharp enough to carve your name into a tree and muscles built from years of fighting and hunting, you've earned your place at the top. Smaller predators steer clear. Even other bears hesitate before crossing your path. You've graduated from prey to something else. One afternoon, you catch the scent of blood. You follow it to a clearing where a young bear, maybe 2 years old, digs into a fresh carcass. He freezes when he sees you, wide-eyed, weighing his options. For a moment, you just stare at him. He makes the smart choice. He runs. You don't bother chasing. What's the point? The food is yours now. And as you tear into it, you realize something. You've become the bear you used to run from. Years pass. The forest starts to feel different. Your once powerful body doesn't move like it used to. The fights you used to dominate now leave you limping. Younger bears test you more often. You still win, but it's starting to feel like survival, not victory. Then one day, after a particularly rough fight, you catch yourself retreating instead of pressing forward. And that's when it hits you. The forest doesn't see you as untouchable anymore. You've still got your scars, your strength, your pride, but the cracks are showing. The forest has no patience for weakness. It just waits. As the first snow of winter falls, you retreat to an old den, one you haven't used in years. It feels smaller now, quieter. You curl up inside, breath slowing as the cold settles around you. You have fought, hunted, and ruled longer than most. But the forest doesn't mourn its kings. It just waits for the next one to take the throne.